Hey everybody, this week we're at Rudskogen Motorsenter with the FF1600. This is the fixed series, of course, and I'm running 58% brake pressure. This track's pretty challenging in terms of track limits. It's really easy just to get a slowdown here in multiple areas. I think it's worth it to read over the rules for this track, as it is for most tracks, just so you know exactly how much curb you can take, where you can take it, so you can maximize your lap time. I do go over that in the track guide after the hot lap. But I still think it's worth a read to go over the rule section here.
26.799. Just set your fastest lap of the session.
Hey everybody, here's the track guide. Coming down to turn 1, we're going to be looking for the 100-meter board here on the right-hand side. We're going to be coming down to second gear, and you can see it's uphill, so our front tires are going to be forced into the ground. Therefore, we can brake a little bit harder than we normally would be able to on a flat surface. So I brake at 100%, and I'm braking, again, just after this 100-meter board or just before the curb, braking really hard. You can see I hit 100% brakes there, and then I'm trailing off. And my goal here is to keep my outside tires just within the tarmac here, or just outside the red and white curb. And it's really easy to get a slowdown penalty if you take too much curb. So if all 4 of my tires were on the curb at the same time, you would get a slowdown penalty. So you kind of have to play around with these corners. A lot of them, it's really tough to maximize each corner because it's really easy to get a slowdown penalty. But this is the way I do it for turn 1, is just keep at least 1 tire on the tarmac. So you can see I take a little bit of curb, but my outside tire is still on. And vice versa, when I'm coming off the curb, you'll see the same thing. And you're getting on the throttle nice and early here. Even while you're in the middle of the corner, you want to be getting on the throttle to get a good run through here. So you can see I'm already on throttle. I hit 100% throttle, and then I dab the brakes a little bit to get the front rotated. And you can see the outside tires now are just within this red and white curb. So you can take quite a bit of curb here and you don't get a slowdown penalty. And so you can see I'm just coasting here, and then I'm waiting for the car to get over to the right hand side here. And then just after I touch the grass here, so you can see on the right hand side, there's this grass here, and just after I hit that, about a second or so, half a second, then I'm getting back on the throttle. And you're trying to keep a tight line through here so you can minimize your distance, but also get on the throttle as quickly as possible. And you want to keep it really within the white line here. If you run too wide here, then you're just going to lose yourself time. You're not really gaining any time by getting on the throttle earlier and running out wide. So try and keep a tight line and get on the throttle as early as possible. You can come to the middle of the track a little bit to minimize the distance. And then we're back over to the right hand side, up to 4th gear now. This is probably the most tricky braking zone. So I'm looking for that 100-meter board, and between the 50 and 100 is where I'm braking, at about 75 right here. And you can see I'm modulating the throttle and the brake. And that's really the goal. If you are just braking through here, I find it really challenging to keep the back end stable. So I like to modulate the throttle and the brake, kind of use them in unison to keep the throttle stable. and we're coming down to third gear. I think I shifted a little bit too early. I would shift more towards the curb as the back end wanted to step out there. But you can see I have to touch the brakes, touch the gas, and you can see I'm just feeding the gas a little bit to keep the minimum speed up. And then touching the brake again, just to get the car rotated. And then coming down to second gear, you can see how low the revs are. That's about 4,900 RPM. And you really want to be shifting to second when you're under 5,000 RPM. If you shift above that, the back wants to step out, like you could see when I shifted down to third gear a little bit too early. And the goal here is to keep the car nice and tight on the right-hand side, while getting on the throttle, again, nice and early. So keep it tight, get on the throttle early. So just as I'm clipping this curb, you can see how much curb I'm taking from the off-board here. Getting the car right up to the grass and even taking some grass on the exit. And keeping it nice and tight over to the right-hand side. And then I'm aiming for this curb, and this is my turn-in point, and kind of what I'm aiming for. So as soon as I touch the curb, I start turning. And then I'm letting the engine brake a little bit, lifting off the gas. And this is about as much curb as you can take. So both my outside tires are a little bit on the red and white curb, and my inside tires are on the green curb. If you take any more than this, you run the risk of getting a slowdown. And you can see just dabbing the brakes a little bit there. And then the second curb, I have to lift off a little bit more, just because it's a tighter corner and we want to set up the next sequence. So you can see I'm about a quarter on the throttle now. And then I'm just letting the car rotate. And you can see my inside tires are on the green again. And I'm taking just a little bit of red and white curb with those outside tires. And this is about as much as you can take without getting a off track. And then I'm fully back on throttle, and then this corner you have to brake a little bit. I brake at about 50-60%, and then trail brake a little bit just to keep the front in as the track drops off here. So you really want to keep your nose in, or it's really easy to scrub speed and run wide here. So you can see how much curb I'm taking, and my outside tire, the rear outside, is always off the curb, which is kind of what you want to be. If you take two tires on the red and white, you can take a little bit, but if you take any more, like the previous corners, you'll get an off track and you'll get a slowdown penalty. And then I'm just letting the car rotate. So you can see the track kind of drops off here. So we're just letting the car rotate, keep a nice tight line. And then at about the middle of this corner, you can see it starts to kind of open up. It's like you're kind of aiming for the tire barrier here. When your nose kind of lines up with that, a little bit before that is where I'm getting on the throttle. You can get on it pretty aggressively since I keep it in second gear, and you can kind of get fully on throttle right away there. And you can run all the way out, and that's about as wide as you can take. If you take any more grass here, you'll get a 1X. Coming up into third gear, we're going to be on the left-hand side. We're taking some curb on entry just to open up this corner. And I'm braking just as I pass that 50-meter board. You can see on the right-hand side here, braking just after the 50, and we're braking at about 75 to 80%. And coming down into first gear, and we're trail braking pretty aggressively here, right to the apex of the corner. Let the car rotate and then get on the throttle nice and early in first gear. Bring it all the way over to the right-hand side, or left-hand side, pardon me. And again, you can take two tires on this red and white curb, your outside tires. And I take a little bit of grass just to minimize the distance here. And then I'm bringing the car all the way over to the right-hand side. You can see I straight line it there. As you can take quite a bit of entry curb here, again, just to open up this corner. So you can see I'm still in second gear, and then braking a little bit, about 50% there, and then just letting the car rotate in. And this is about, again, as much curb as you can take. You can take a little bit of curb with your outside tires, the red and white curb that is, and then making sure you're taking lots of curb with your inside tires, the green curb. And getting on the throttle nice and early. You could probably get it on a little bit earlier, about here in the middle of the corner. And then running all the way out to the right-hand side. You can see that my tires get all the way to the outside of the curb. If you come a little bit over, you're going to get a 1X. So just keep it within the margins there. And then opening up this next corner, get all the way on the curb on the right-hand side. and flick it in. I just lift a little bit. I don't actually touch the brakes here. I just use the engine to brake, and then getting fully back on throttle. And now we're braking coming into this hairpin kind of corner. And we're aiming to just keep it straight and really attack this corner to minimize the distance again. So you can see I touch the brakes there about 50%, and then I let it roll out a little bit wide here. So I almost turn this corner into a V. So I let the car roll out wide and then come back for later apex. And getting on the throttle here is really challenging. It's honestly more about feel than about where I am, like visually wise. And once you kind of do it a few times, you get a feel for how early you can get on the throttle. So you can see I had to modulate it there a little bit. I got on it a little bit too early, but I was still able to keep up good speed. And like I said, you're taking a late apex there. And you can run all the way to the red and white line. You can just, as long as you keep 2 of your inside tires on the red and white curb here, then you won't get a 1X. And then bring it to the finish line. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching.